Right now, a fluid is keeping you alive. Air fills your lungs. Blood races through your arteries. And the whole ocean of atmosphere is pressing on you with a ton of force that you never even feel. The same physics lifts a jet on its wing, floats a steel ship, and lets a hydraulic jack raise a car with one finger. Push, float, and flow, 3 tricks, all from stuff that simply refuses to hold its shape. Before any of that, one deceptively simple question. What exactly is a fluid? A solid holds its shape because its atoms lock into a rigid lattice. A liquid keeps its volume but flows to fit any container. A gas expands to fill everything it can reach. Liquids and gases share the one property that matters: they flow. Here is the true test. Push tangent to a surface, a shearing force. A solid resists, it deforms a little and pushes back. A fluid cannot resist a shear at all. Apply the smallest sideways force, and it just keeps flowing. That is the definition. A fluid cannot sustain a shearing stress. For an extended substance whose properties drift from point to point, mass and force are clumsy. Two better quantities take over. The first is density, mass packed into each unit of volume. Density spans an almost unimaginable range. From the best laboratory vacuum, to air, to water, to iron and mercury, all the way up to the core of a neutron star, where a single sugar cube of matter would outweigh a mountain. The second quantity is pressure, the perpendicular force a fluid presses onto each unit of area. Its unit is the Pascal, 1 Newton per square meter. And here is the subtle part. At any point in a fluid at rest, the pressure is the same in every direction. It has no arrow of its own. Pressure is a scalar. Squeeze a point, and it pushes back equally all around. Every diver knows the rule in their ears: pressure grows with depth. To find exactly how, isolate an imaginary column of fluid standing perfectly still. Because it is in equilibrium, the forces on it must cancel. 3 vertical forces act. The fluid above pushes its top down. The fluid below pushes its bottom up, a little harder. And gravity pulls its own weight straight down. Balance them, and the pressure difference must exactly equal the weight of fluid in between. Do the algebra, and out falls the master equation of hydrostatics. The pressure at depth h is the surface pressure, plus rho gh. Notice what is missing: no width, no shape. Pressure depends on depth alone. One more distinction, worth real money. The full value is the absolute pressure. Subtract the atmosphere, and you get the gauge pressure, rho gh, the part a tire gauge or a blood pressure cuff actually reads. Positive when you inflate a tire, negative when you suck on a straw. That one equation quietly powers 2 classic instruments. First, the mercury barometer. Fill a tube with mercury, invert it into a dish, and a near vacuum opens at the top. Only the atmosphere holds the column up, so its height measures atmospheric pressure directly. Second, the open tube manometer. A U-tube, open on one side, connected to a gas on the other. The gas shoves the liquid up the far arm, and the height difference between the 2 arms gives the gas's gauge pressure. No calculation needed. Squeeze one end of a toothpaste tube, and paste appears at the other end. That is Pascal's principle, a change in pressure applied to an enclosed fluid is transmitted, undiminished, to every last part of it. Chain that idea to two pistons, and you get the hydraulic lever. A small push on a small piston creates a pressure. That same pressure acts on a much larger piston, and the same pressure over a bigger area means a far bigger force out. But nature keeps the books balanced. The big piston rises a proportionally smaller distance, so the work you put in equals the work you get out. A hydraulic jack lifts a car you could never lift at the price of many small pumps off the handle. Force is multiplied, work is not. Imagine a thin sack of water, held submerged. It neither rises nor sinks, so the water around it must push up with a force equal to the weight of the water inside. That upward push is the buoyant force, and it comes from pressure being greater at the bottom than the top. Now swap the sack's water for a stone, or a block of wood of the same shape. The surrounding fluid cannot tell the difference, the buoyant force is unchanged. It always equals the weight of the fluid that the body pushes out of the way. If the buoyant force beats the weight, the body rises and floats like an iceberg, riding with most of its bulk hidden below. A floating body settles exactly where it displaces its own weight of fluid. And buoyancy is why things feel lighter underwater. A scale reads the true weight minus the buoyant force, the apparent weight. Push it to zero and the body floats freely, which is exactly why astronauts rehearse spacewalks in a giant pool. Real flow is fearsomely complex, so we tame it with 4 assumptions. Steady, the velocity at each fixed point never changes. Incompressible, constant density. Non-viscous, no internal friction. And irrotational, a speck carried along does not spin. To picture a flow, follow a thread of dye. It traces a streamline, and the fluid's velocity is always tangent to it. Two streamlines can never cross, because a fluid element at the crossing would need 2 velocities at once. Pinch a garden hose, and the water leaps out faster. Why? Because for a steady, incompressible flow, whatever volume enters a pipe each second must leave it each second. The fluid cannot pile up and cannot vanish. So where the pipe is wide, the fluid ambles. Where it necks down, it must speed up to keep the flow rate constant. Watch the particles crowd and accelerate through the throat. That is the equation of continuity. The product of area and speed, the volume flow rate stays constant along the pipe. Multiply by density and you get the mass flow rate, also constant. Narrow the channel, and the speed simply rises to compensate. Now apply conservation of energy to a flowing ideal fluid, the work done by pressure, plus gravitational energy, plus kinetic energy. Everything collects into one elegant statement, Bernoulli's equation. Its headline consequence is beautifully counterintuitive. Along a horizontal flow, if the fluid speeds up, its pressure must drop. Fast means low pressure. Slow means high pressure. Where streamlines crowd together, the pressure sinks. The same equation drains a tank. Water leaving a hole a depth h below the surface bursts out at the square root of 2gh, exactly the speed it would reach falling freely through that height. This is Torricelli's law. 1. A diver fills his lungs at some depth and, against all advice, holds his breath while surfacing. At the top, His lung pressure exceeds the outside by 9.3 kilopascals. From what depth did he start? The trapped air keeps its deep water pressure, while the outside falls to atmospheric. That leftover gap is just the gauge pressure ρgL, solve for L, barely a meter. Yet that is enough to rupture lung tissue. The lesson: exhale on the way up. 2. A block of density 800 floats in a fluid of density 1200. What fraction sinks below the surface? Floating means buoyancy equals weight, and the depth ratio is simply the density ratio, 2/3 submerged. Push it fully under and let go. Now the whole block displaces fluid, so buoyancy overwhelms weight, and Newton's second law gives an upward kick of about half kg. It springs back to the surface. 3. Ethanol flows through a horizontal pipe that halves its area. The pressure drop from the wide to the narrow section is 4120 pascals. Find the volume flow rate. Combine continuity with Bernoulli on the level pipe. The narrow part is faster, so its pressure is lower. That fixes the sign. Solve, and the flow rate comes out about 2.2 liters per second. Let's gather the whole chapter into one map. At the center, fluids. From there branch density and pressure, the hydrostatic law, Pascal's principle, Archimedes' buoyancy, the equation of continuity, and Bernoulli's equation. Before we close, a challenge. A steel ship floats, yet a steel nail sinks. Pause here and think, what single quantity decides the difference, and why does hollowing the same steel into a hull suddenly let it ride the water? From the pressure in a diver's ears, to the lift on a wing, to the blood in your veins, it is all one quiet physics. Stuff that refuses to hold its shape, and in refusing, learns to push, to float, and to fly.